The horrors of night school. Almost every school has its own horror stories related to its building. So in one small town, there was a legend among the students that on the 15th of every lunar month strange things happen at night at school. For example, that the eyes of the statue opposite the entrance rotate. The number of steps in the staircases changes. Blood begins to flow from the taps instead of water in laboratories. And if at this time, someone dares to enter the extreme toilet on the first floor, then no one will see this person anymore. One day a group of children decided to check if they were telling the truth, or if it was just a story. They gathered on the 15th of the lunar month and approached the school closer to midnight. The eyes of the statue at the entrance looked to the left. Passing by him, the guys specifically paid attention to this. After waiting for a while, they made sure that the eyes did not move a millimeter. Fairy tales are everything, said one of the boys. Let's see more. They entered the building and approached the stairs. 1 step, 2, 3. A total of 13 steps. That's right, there should have been 13 of them, like every staircase in the building. Then the guys went to the laboratory. One of the taps was open. Water gushed out of it. Yes, we came in vain. The fear of the guys finally dissipated, and they decided to check the extreme toilet on the first floor without much hope. However, before the toilet door, their ardor cooled somewhat. Although they vied with each other that they no longer believed anything, no one was in a hurry to enter. Finally, one boy, Jack, said he wasn't afraid of anything, opened the door and went into the toilet. His friends looked at their watches. It was exactly 1 o'clock in the morning. A minute later the boy came out of the toilet. There is nothing. It's all fairy tales. The guys, laughing, walked away. After leaving the school, they ran home. One of the boys from this group, Eric, took another look at the statue at the entrance before leaving. Her eyes were still looking to the left. Fairy tales. He whispered contemptuously and headed home. The next morning Jack's mother called him. Listen, Jack was with you last night, wasn't he? He still hasn't returned home. The guy sensed something was wrong. In the end, they decided to tell their parents and teachers about their experiment last night. Together with the adults, they went to the school building. What are you saying? The statue near the school has eyes looking to the right, said the headmaster, listening to the story of the children. How so? But yesterday we specially approached. They looked to the left. Upon entering the gate, everyone saw that the eyes were really looking to the right, but there were still steps. The guys quickly ran to the stairs. 1, 2, 3, 12. Yes, there have always been 12 steps in this staircase, said the headmaster. It is shorter than the rest of the stairs by 1 step. The architects made a mistake in the design. It's impossible, but the faucet is in the lab. One boy remembered. Entering the laboratory, everyone looked at the crane. There was a red puddle in the sink under him. But Jack went to that toilet. Everyone was numb with fear. Let's go quickly. Let's see. The director felt that the matter was getting serious. They pushed the door. The first thing they saw was Jack's mutilated body. His eyes were wide open, terror frozen in them. The neck was cut wide across. All the blood had flowed out of the body, making the face as pale as paper. The entrails, turned outwards, lay in the already dried shell. Jack's mother screamed and fainted. Some of the teachers present couldn't help vomiting. Eric stared unblinkingly at the watch on Jack's hand. They showed exactly 1 o'clock, the time when he entered the toilet. Empty houses. We gathered to sit with friends over a glass of strong somehow. And there was one man who looked much older than his years. He said that he was in Chechnya during the Second War. Then he served in the police. Gradually, There was a conversation about all sorts of horror and mysticism, and he told such a story. He did not say in which city it happened, and we did not pry. In every city there are houses that are kind of empty. Even in the city center, this happens. It looks like the house is standing, but you can't see anything from the dust in the windows. It's so abandoned. He had often seen such houses, and once, during a night patrol duty, he saw that some strange lights were flashing in the windows, which he had never seen lit before. Curiosity made him approach and try to see something, but it was all in vain, and the patrolmen had already decided to go on, when they suddenly heard strange eerie sounds, as if someone was tearing something furiously. Then there was a muffled scream. The policemen were all experienced in military operations and made the decision immediately. With the help of improvised means, they tore off the grill nailed directly to the wooden frame, knocked out the glass and, taking the service AKSU, found themselves in the room. According to their assumption, once there was a place for public meetings, some chairs, tables, but everything was in disrepair. The dust lay in clouds. The sounds came from the basement, covered with linoleum. The guys were serving and had seen everything, but what they saw made their hair stand on end. The whole basement was covered in blood. There were some half-rotted corpses lying around, and in the middle of the room stood some gorilla-like man and tore out the spine of a naked girl hanging on a hook. One of the guys threw up from that picture right there. The rest, having first experienced shock and then uncontrollable rage, raised their weapons and stuffed the freak with lead. They could not identify the identity of the murdered man. He did not pass through the bases. Yes, and this is The Police in Russia, not the CSI TV series. The girl was reported missing a week ago. The authorities were delighted and hung a lot of capercaillie on this case, as usually happens. The guy soon resigned from the authorities and moved away until he settled with us in Primori. Of course, there is no way to verify his words, but still, indeed, in every city there are such empty windows. Extra basement. I lived at that time in an old, post-war house. This house is notable for the fact that it was built by captured Germans a few years after the end of the war. The house is small, only 2 entrances and 3 floors. It was built conscientiously, and if it weren't for the gouging of public utilities, it would still be in excellent condition. There is also a basement in our house, a luxury by today's standards. Each of the 18 apartments in this basement is allocated a separate room. This basement will be discussed. Our basement was notable for the fact that it periodically turned into a swamp, an impassable swamp that exuded such smells that it was sickening to even walk past it, let alone go inside. Every time the utilities did something, and the smells disappeared for a while. Although, if you ask any of the residents of the house, no one has ever seen these utilities. However, the work was done. The second attraction of our basement is that it has 19 rooms, not counting the corridor. It is not known why the German builders built another extra room, thereby taking away space from 2 neighboring ones. The door to the extra room, I must say, was sound. An iron door 2 fingers thick, corroded in some places with rust. She never locked herself in, was constantly shaking and slamming hard against the walls, which invariably made her shudder. This behavior of this door was difficult to explain. Indeed, where in an isolated room would such a strong draft come from to play with such a massive door, like a light plywood? Several times the neighbors tried to go and find out where it was pulling from, but the enthusiasm melted every time a person approached this very door. Perhaps it was the smell. The smell from the 19th room was some kind of particularly nasty apparently. Fixing the sewer in this room was not part of the responsibilities of the housing and communal services. Or maybe it was the door itself, which I didn't want to touch at all. It was not just a door. There were some kind of metal rivets in the shape of a circle, tainted white, attached to it at the corners and in the center. The paint should have worn off over time, however. It seems that someone was constantly updating it. There was another reason why people did not want to go to investigate: an oppressive sense of danger, fear. It absorbed a person when he took a couple of steps beyond the threshold of the 19th room. The fear that if he took a few more steps, the door would slam shut behind him with a thud and would never open again. That's how we lived, walking around the damn room on the opposite wall of the corridor. He lived in our house as a regular drunk. Everyone called him Uncle Fedya. He was a very gentle man. Such people, when they drink, or attacked by an uncontrollable passion to do something. During one of these emotional outbursts, Uncle Fedya decided to hang a large barn lock on this door. To be sure, he was even able to get welding from somewhere to weld massive hinges to the door. I must say that he performed his task perfectly. True, he did not have a key to the lock, as it turned out later, but we turned a blind eye to it, because clearly no one wanted to enter there. The tenants breathed a sigh of relief. Now it was possible to go down to the basement without fear, which I did on one of the winter Friday evenings, wanting to please myself with a jar of pickles stored from the summer. Opening the door to the basement, I started down the stairs, having previously turned on the light in the corridor. When I got down, I noticed how the light bulb began to flicker, threatening to leave me in complete darkness in a few minutes. I shivered and decided to hurry up. Passing by the 19th door, I heard some strange sound somewhere in the distance, clearly outside the house, as if someone was moving something very heavy on the floor. After a couple of moments, the sound stopped. I didn't attach any importance to it then, and went further into my basement, going up to it and opening it with a key. I began sorting through the cans, hoping to find at least one with tomatoes, and it captured me so much that I fell out of reality a little and woke up only a few minutes later, not finding tomatoes and deciding to settle for cucumbers. Turning around and about to leave my basement into the common corridor, I froze. I heard a rustle. No, not a rustle. They were barely audible thuds on something heavy. It's as if someone saw an obstacle in front of them that had never been there before, and is now trying on how best to eliminate it. So I stood there, hugging a jar of cucumbers and afraid to move. I was absolutely sure that the sound was coming from the very 19th room that Uncle Fedya had walled out. I stood there for a few minutes. For me, they passed like several hours. The sounds became louder and louder. The blows on the door from that side became fiercer and more impatient. I cursed myself for my indecision. As soon as I heard the first blow, I should have run as fast as I could from the damn basement, from this burial ground, where the Germans buried something that now wanted to be released, obviously not for the first time. There was a grinding sound mixed with the blows. Something in impotent anger clawed at the ire of the door. If only the door would hold. If only this drunk would do everything conscientiously. This thought completely filled my mind. After all, if this creature gets out, it will clearly guess by the light turned on that there is someone in the basement. Suddenly the sound stopped. Has the creature realized that the obstacle is insurmountable? Or did she just decide to rest? I realized that I would not have a second chance. I put the jar on the shelf as quietly as possible and prepared to live the worst moments of my life, quietly going out into the corridor and closing the door behind me. I turned to face the exit. My basement is at the farthest end of this underground floor. To get out of it upstairs, You first need to walk 5 meters along the corridor, turn the corner, walk another 20 meters, go out into the vestibule and climb the stairs. Just on the second, 20-meter section, there was a damn extra basement. The light was very dim. Apparently, several bulbs had already burned out. Another couple burned very timidly, threatening to go out at any second. I tiptoed through the first 5-meter section and stopped, gathering my courage. What should I do next? Run these 20 meters, making a lot of noise, or carefully make my way through the walls, making a minimum of sounds? I decided to stop at the second option, at least until there is a clear danger. I passed the first meters quite confidently and even decided to speed up the pace a little. I was about 3 meters away from the 19th door when I heard a new sound, after which my knees trembled and I had to slide down the wall to the floor so as not to fall. So I sat for a few seconds, after which, no matter what, I rushed forward with all my might past the damn door, soared up the stairs, went up to my house, took the phone, and went to spend the night with a friend. Now, when I analyze that case, it's hard for me to say what scared me more: the sound of the earth being torn apart mixed with tapping on concrete, or a disgusting paw that poked out from under the door, stained with green, purulent colored goo, with 6 fingers, from which, like nails driven in with bitten caps, claws protruded. Several years have passed. In our area, we decided to build new buildings, because almost the very center of the city, our house was demolished. The tenants were settled. However, according to some norms, before demolition, you need to check absolutely all the rooms of the house, including the basements. There was nothing to do. I had to go down to the basement. As they later told, a group of 5 strong men refused for a long time. Tearing off the lock from the 19th basement, they said that there was no need to go there, because there was clearly no one there. However, the threats of the authorities forced people to go there. Apart from a disgusting smell, a mess of sewage waste, some rotten rags and rot, they found nothing, except for some incomprehensible tunnel in the wall, from which a draft and the smell of a burial ground were drawn. The tunnel went down at an angle, so it was decided to fill it with a special mixture and forget, writing off its presence as a mistake of the designers of the house.